obviously the center of all this is Jimmy Garoppolo. He was quarterback 14 in fantasy. Only had 5 games of 20 or more fantasy points, though. When you're quarterback, you kind of want that 19 to 25 points. He just wasn't, because like you said, there's just some games they just don't pass it at all because they don't have to.
Right.
So to me, I don't target him in fantasy specifically for what you just said. But is there any reason to expect a big leap? And then the second part there, too, is do you think he's the long-term answer in San Francisco?
Okay, that's a whole different question. Let's talk about, I'll get to that, but let's talk about 2020 first. Is there reason to expect a big leap? Yes, there is, and I think the organization expects it and the fans expect it. And the reason is it's his second full season as a starting quarterback under Kyle Shanahan. Everyone saw what Matt Ryan did, the leap he took from 2015 to 2016. He went from being solid to being the best MVP in the Super Bowl. If Jimmy makes that leap, he'll be the long-term answer. I think people are expecting second full season, second year away from the ACL surgery. He'll be 29 in November. There is definitely reason to expect a big jump. Do I expect it? I don't. And I could be wrong. But the reason I don't expect it is he lost Emmanuel Sanders. Deebo Samuel's hurt. It's not his fault. But I don't believe his weapons are as good as they were last year. I don't believe they are. And I don't think they're really going to be – I mean, I think they'd love him to throw 35, 40 touchdowns this year. But I don't think they're going to change their offense. I still think they're a run-first attack. And I think what they really want him to do, the most reasonable leap they expect him to make is to stop throwing so many picks. Seriously. If you can cut it from 13 to 7, they probably win the Super Bowl. If he can go the entire regular season throwing 7 picks – Kyle Shanahan would probably trust him in the playoffs if he threw one bad pass. But the way Garoppolo's been, and it wasn't just last year, he started 27 games for the 49ers, including the playoffs, and thrown 24 picks. Mm-hmm. That's a trend. And I'm not calling him Jameis Winston, but if he goes another season throwing 13, 14 picks, then you start to wonder. So if he can just cut the interceptions down to 7 or 8, they'll be happy. And I would imagine that unless Aaron Rodgers becomes available unexpectedly, that they would probably stick with Jimmy. But I'm not so sure that he's going to cut down his interceptions. He doesn't throw outside the numbers. He doesn't very often. He doesn't throw deep very often. Opposing defenses know they can kind of compress themselves between the numbers. And then he ends up throwing a lot of passes into traffic. Passes get tipped. Bad things happen. So I'm curious to see if he can just cut down the picks. I don't expect 4,500 passing yards and 35 touchdowns. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm fully with you either. I don't. And at quarterback in fantasy, unless you're doing the super flex leagues where there's 2 quarterbacks starting, there's just so much more upside, in my opinion, that you can find late with these younger guys that might run the ball a little more themselves or sling it deeper. It is about the run game.
I might rather have Joe Burrow than Jimmy Garoppolo, just in fantasy.
Absolutely.
Just in fantasy. Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm the same boat. Yeah. I we don't know what he's going to be yet. Whereas I feel like we kind of know what Garoppolo is. And there is that ceiling you highlighted, if it is the Matt Ryan style year 2 in the system, but it's just a different type of offense because the run game is so productive here. It was in Atlanta too, but I mean, they also had Julio Jones and they had, all these ridiculous weapons around.
They aired it out in Atlanta. They aired it out.
Why not, right? And if you don't have Deebo Samuel, especially to start the year, who are you going to air it out with?